Well, he rarely failed to startle and inspire both audiences and peers. Visionary filmmaker, writer and artist David Lynch has died just days before he was due to turn 79. The Oscar-nominated director gained a cult following for his unsettling portraits of American life, was best known for films like Mulholland Drive and Blue Velvet and the groundbreaking TV series Twin Peaks. Well, for more on his life and legacy, let's cross live now to LA. France 24's Loic Pialat is standing by for us. Loic, firstly, what has been the reaction to the death of this visionary filmmaker?
So Steven Spielberg actually hired David Lynch for his movie The Fabelmans back in 2022, and he was one of the very first one to pay tribute to David Lynch, describing him as a singular visionary dreamer who directed films that felt handmade. The world is going to miss such an original and unique voice. His films have already stood the test of time, and they always will. We've heard as well from Ron Howard, director of Apollo 13, who actually won an Oscar, unlike David Lynch, which seems like a mystery out of a David Lynch movie. And he describes him as a gracious man and fearless artist who proved radical experimentation could yield unforgettable cinema. The AFI, Hollywood Institution, American Film Institute, where that David Lynch attended when he was younger, talks about his impact on cinema that proved indelible. And we've heard as well from Billy Corgan from the band Smashing Pumpkins, the rock band that was part of the soundtrack of the movie Lost Highway, and he says that working with him was like a dream out of one of his movies. He's a true artist, and so the Oscars did not give an Oscar to the Academy did not give an Oscar to David Lynch, but he did receive back in 2019 honorary Oscar, and he had this very short speech. He went on stage and had this very Lynchian reaction, looking at the Oscars, saying, "You have a very interesting face," and then he left the stage.
And Loic, he's perhaps best known, depending on your point of view, for Twin Peaks, Mulholland Drive, Blue Velvet, perhaps. Remind us of some of the highlights of David Lynch's career.
Yeah, so David Lynch directed only 10 movies over 30 years, but each one of them, you don't forget them when you watch them. The first one, Eraserhead, was a horror film in black and white and opened doors for him. Then you had Elephant Man, that was a huge success in the theaters, but as well with the critics. Then Dune, very different from the Hollywood version we've seen recently. This movie was way more controversial, but again, even if it's not always easy to watch, it's very hard to forget. You mentioned Blue Velvet, also one of his masterpieces. Twin Peaks as well. Mulholland Drive is a very strange movie in the sense that you have as well mixed in it the dream, the American dream, and the American nightmare. He had this very dream-like. You watching these movies was like watching a dream unfolding. You don't always understand it, but you're always stunned by at least the visual impact. And there's this very strange movie as well in his body of work, A Straight Story, very different from everything else he's done. It's just a story of this old man crossing the Midwest on a tractor to meet with his sick brother. Very, very different from the rest of what he's done, but also showing some type of different side of his personality, because even though the movies were dark and violent and strange, David Lynch was a very kind and sweet man. At least that was his reputation. That movie, A Straight Story, kind of shows that side of him.
Loic, thank you so much for joining us. That is our correspondent in LA, Loic Pialat. Well, it's time now for business news.